Minister of Industry, Minister of Communication and IT, Minister of Housing, Urban Communities, and the Executive President of the Investment Authority. In all the rounds and the visits that we make now, we focus on these important priority sectors for the state, so as to lead the Egyptian economy and to be the engine of development and to achieve the high growth rates as well as more job opportunities. These are the four main sectors: agriculture, industry, IT, and tourism. And if we would look at these sectors, we'll find that we started the visit in one of the exemplary farms that is connected to dairy products as well as food processing industries. I would like to emphasize that in all our visits we do not just present the project, but we discuss the private sector, how to expand and develop its projects to narrow the export gap, as this is our problem in Egypt. So today, when we were talking to the managers and the owners of this exemplary farm and the owners of this dairy factory, we talked to them about a new project to construct a factory to produce powder milk. Egypt imports more than 300,000 tons annually of powder milk. So we are talking to the private sector today about constructing a factory as soon as possible to cover part of our needs in this field. This is our main purpose of all our visits, and of course throughout the week you find that I have a meeting with the experts councils as well as the different chambers of industries, and when I sit with these councils and chambers we discuss how can we increase our experts and our production to reduce our import bill. Yesterday we had a meeting with one of the big foreign companies that opened in Egypt, and His Excellency the President had inaugurated its plant, and we were talking to them about establishing and producing one of the biggest factories for central air conditioners by the end of 2025. These are the central air conditioners needed for hospitals and hotels because its import bill was very high also. So we are focusing now on narrowing the hard currency and the dollar gap, as this is our chronic problem. The import bill of Egypt is bigger than the exports, or our revenues are less than our consumption of dollars. That's why Egypt faces challenges and economic crises, and we have to take decisions. Without achieving this balance between our resources of hard currency and our consumption of currency, this gap would always last. That's why within the 3 years we are trying to achieve this goal, to make our resources equal to our expenses. With the economic reforms we did recently, and with the steps we are undertaking, and with more production and more exports, and the economic crisis that we have been through over the past year and a half starting to disappear, if we would put aside the petroleum products bill that we import, we have achieved such a balance. So if we put aside the imports of petroleum products bill, then we have achieved the balance between our resources and our expenditure. We are able to say that we are able to achieve almost this balance. What is remaining is the import of petroleum products. That's why we have a plan over the coming period to increase every year with clear targets and clear figures our resources of hard currency and increase our exports and reduce our importation bill, as well as doing governance for imports so as to achieve such a goal, and to help Egypt avoid facing once more such economic shocks. Let's talk now about another very important thing that the President mentioned 2 days ago while opening the projects in Toshka and South the Valley, and it is that we, the state, have a subsidy bill for the main products that the state has incurred. And this takes me to talk about the subsidy system in general, and let's start with the loaf of bread. I want to talk about this very important point and remind you that before COVID-19 we were talking about the necessity of changing the price of the loaf of bread, and that we as a state, the subsidy bill for the bread is very high, and of course we'll keep subsidizing the bread, but we are talking here about the fact to be in line with the increases in the price of the bread. I would like to tell you what are we exactly doing. The Ministry of Supply, Egypt produces 200 billion subsidized loaves of bread annually. The state sells it for 5 piastres. So the state out of the 200 billion takes only 5 billion Egyptian pounds. We will try as much as we can to take the wheat production and incentivize the Egyptian farmer to reduce our import bill. So we are motivating the Egyptian farmers to supply us with the wheat crops, and that's why we increased the price of the wheat. I will give you figures. During the past fiscal year 2022-2023, in our budget, the price was 1,100 Egyptian pounds, and due to the economic conditions, you remember that this year there was the problem of inflation, the economic global crisis, and the global wheat prices. We were bringing it for $260, $270, and it became $570 all of a sudden. This was the international price, and this was with the Russian-Ukrainian war. What did we do? We took a decision to give an incentive for supplying wheat, and we added 400 Egyptian pounds. So by the end of the last season, the price was 1,500 Egyptian pounds rather than 1,100. What about this year? We started this year, and I'm just giving you the figure. What was in the budget was that the price would be 1,250 Egyptian pounds. This was what was set by the Ministry of Finance according to international prices and the targets. Before the beginning of the agriculture season, we announced that we'd increase the price to be 1,600 pounds. And we said that before harvesting, we'd look at the international prices, because we want to encourage the farmer to supply the crops to the state. And I would like to tell you that what the Egyptian farmer provides is about 35 to 40% of the wheat needs for the subsidized bread. What we collect from the farmers represents 35 to 40% of the subsidized bread. What did we do? We increased it from 1,600 to 2,000 pounds. So, from 1,250 in the Egyptian budget, now we give the farmers 2,000 pounds, and we are at the end of the harvesting season, and the figures are very good of the amount supplied to us, and we give the farmer 2,000 Egyptian pounds. What we paid up till this moment for the Egyptian farmer, and we still have another month in this season, the Ministry of Finance up till yesterday paid 40 billion pounds for the Egyptian farmers. Besides the wheat we import in dollars to continue our bread system. So we are talking about the volume that exceeds 100 billion pounds. We are talking about 110 or 115 billion pounds real subsidy for the bread. Accordingly, we as a state were keen during this unprecedented crisis to not make the citizens shoulder extra burdens. That's why we made the state incur all the big burdens to try as much as we can for the things that we, the state, can incur, would incur. But actually, can we incur this forever? Of course not. Impossible. So it was necessary to get back to what we were talking about before the COVID-19 crisis, so that we would reduce the large volume. The food would be subsidized greatly, but we need to be aware that the state cannot incur this very high increases and leaps. A year ago, we were supposed to take wheat for 1,100, and now we are paying 2,000. So this is exactly what we're talking about now. What about energy? And the President asked us to talk about this, and the ministers of petroleum and electricity over the past 2 days talked about that. And let me put all these parts together today. The electricity production depends mainly on conventional fuel. It is natural gas, diesel, and mazout, as well as new and renewable energy, as we have a specific share from the high dam, and this used to represent most of Egypt's needs, but with the great increase of population and with the urbanization, it represents less than 10% of Egypt's energy production. We are talking about 7 or 6%. So this is part of the renewable energy, because we consider the energy of the high dam to be clean or renewable energy. That's why we had to go to the wind and solar energy. And we're working on this, and we have plans in this context. Yet we were not able to expand over the previous 5 or 6 years in that, because the production prices were very high, and these projects were implemented by private sector, and usually these were external investments, and we were asked to pay for this service in US dollars. So the state was keen on not implementing mega projects with a very high bill. So when the prices reduced and now we have unprecedented prices, we expanded in the contracts. But any project that we are signing today would take at least 2.5 years or 3 years until it operates and produces. For the fuel prices used in the production of electricity, Egypt is gifted with a specific amount of natural gas and petroleum. 60% or more than 60% of the natural gas produced by Egypt goes for electricity consumption. I'm giving you the figure. the cost of extraction without any other burdens. The cost of extraction is $4.25 per unit, and I give it to the Ministry of Electricity to use it in its plants at $3 only and not 4.25. So this is another figure to know how the state deals with this. Electricity still needs mazot and other gas products to meet the increasing needs every year. We are a state that increases every year, and this increase in population is translated into housing units like the ones behind us, as well as plants and factories that should be constructed, as well as new urban communities and new cities for people to reside. So the electricity consumption increases and it's not fixed. So the electricity needs bill of petroleum products increases every year. We are trying to introduce new and renewable energy to make up for this need and to reduce the dependence on conventional fuel, because the whole world is moving towards clean and renewable energy now, and the construction of the nuclear station in Dab'a aims mainly at introducing clean energy as part of our energy potentials. The mazot that I bring, and there is also a local component and another part that I import. I give it now to electricity and I import it three-folds the real value. I'm just trying to show you the pressure shouldered by the state to meet the needs, the increasing needs. When the economic crisis occurred, I need to share with you specific figures, because some people say that there is no subsidy for energy. What the whole figure is in dollars. So what happened because of floating the pound shows that the number is fixed. In 2021-2022, the average barrel price was $54. In 2020-2021, it was $54 per barrel. In 21-22, when the Russian-Ukrainian war erupted, the average of that year was $92 per barrel. It increased from 54 to 92. The next 2 years, the average is 85, 87 dollars. So there is a jump here in the price of the Brent barrel. I'm just trying to give you an idea about the challenge we are facing. I, as a state, what did I used to do? The Petroleum Authority and the electricity companies are economic entities. So what they are supposed to do is at least not to incur any losses and not to make the state incur anything. What happened was, let me remind you that the Minister of Electricity since 2018 developed a plan saying that in 5 years I will reach zero subsidy and I would be able to do it. Yet there were all these shocks that happened all over the world, and the big inflation, and this big crisis led to the fact that the system he developed was not implemented and we were not able to reach zero subsidy. When this big crisis started, It was normal to amend my plan and increase prices. Isn't this the case? This is logic. But we took a decision amidst this crisis for a year and a half. We fixed all prices, and in this year and a half it was the state that incurred this bill. And it was a very big figure, and not in pounds but in dollars. I used to borrow it at a time when the interest rate on the dollar, instead of 1% or 2%, was 5%, 6, 7 or 8% even. I just wanted the citizens to know how much the state incurred. And the subsidy bills the state paid. No state could have incurred this during this period with these unprecedented shocks that occurred successively. So electricity did not take this decision. As a result, the Minister of Electricity said that according to the current price of electricity, with the fuel price I get from the Ministry of Petroleum, I will have losses 140 billion pounds. 140 billion pounds losses. The electricity companies are economic companies. Who would support these companies? It's the state. So, as I told you, I have this bill. The kilowatt per hour, how much does it cost? The minister gave a figure and I will repeat it, 223 piastres. This is the cost of the production of kilowatt per hour. The average household segments, we were always supporting the first 3 tranches or 3 segments, and we'll keep supporting them. I would like to tell you that the first one it's 85 piastres per kilowatt per hour, while the actual cost is 23. So we used to have mutual subsidy. The more consuming segments would pay more to cover up for that, and also for the other non-residential activities like commercial activities or some investment activities, and we keep our eye on industry in order not to harm it, because this is our determinant. So now the problem is that the Ministry of Electricity, its monthly bill that should be paid to petroleum for the petroleum products is 15 billion pounds. This is the monthly bill. How much does electricity pay? It pays 4. According to the total revenues it collects due to the difference in electricity prices. What's the alternative? The alternative is either we find a problem to provide these resources, and this is exactly what we did. But with the increase of consumption rates and the need for more, the option I had was that over the year and a half where we fixed the prices, to increase the prices afterwards to make a balance, so that they would have resources to give to the petroleum, so the petroleum would provide him with the petroleum products he needs for the plants and stations. But we did not do it. So the other option was to reduce the loads for 2 or 2.5 hours, as we do right now. Of course, I realize how people are upset with that, but I'm now trying to be as clear as possible. We greatly took into consideration that we were in a period where we were not trying to make the citizen incur extra burdens. There was the increasing prices of a product due to the US dollar rate, and we used to hear that its price is 70 pounds, and the citizen used to say that this is difficult, so I could not at that time increase the price of electricity or the prices of other things. So we accepted as a state to incur these numbers. But these numbers is a debt, and the state takes a debt and pays it at an interest rate. So our goal today is to reduce this debt bill and to make a balance again. That's why I hear on the websites of the cabinet the problems, when would you stop the outage of electricity? So I designated the ministries of petroleum and electricity to put a clear scenario. How with the end of the summer we would stop the reduction of the load, so we are talking about November or December. What does this need? This needs resources, of course. We need to have resources so as to be able to bring the petroleum products that would enable us to achieve this target. That's why once more I asked the Minister of Electricity to put another plan for 4 years to gradually increase the price of electricity so that the less consuming segments would be subsidized, and we start other activities that would support this partially. I'm trying just to give you an idea that we are moving with these procedures to achieve stability in this system. The state cannot incur forever this increasing bill of subsidy. The last thing is petroleum. And the Minister of Petroleum and the President talked about the subsidy of petroleum products. I would like to tell you that with the first phase of the reform program in 2016, this was one of the most important problems of the state. And over the past years, in 2021, we did not have subsidy for petroleum products except the gas cylinder and the mazot that is used in subsidized bread bakers, and of course they would always be subsidized. In 2021 the subsidy bill was 19 billion pounds, representing the mazot and the gas cylinder. But afterwards the economic crisis occurred and we started finding 54 per barrel, 92 per barrel and 87 per barrel. Along that came the economic crisis and the US dollar price. So I had two factors: the universal price of the product as well as the difference in price. Did we increase the prices equal to that difference? Of course not. What's the solution then? Because again, I need to get back to where I was in 2021. To find all petroleum products capable of covering their costs. Our problem is always with the diesel, because diesel is used in everything, starting with the irrigation machines, the tractors, the microbuses, the buses, and all the trucks. So while increasing the price of the diesel, we take into consideration how this would impact the prices, but we need to have a clear plan, and we developed this plan so that we would get back to this balance by the end of 2025. By the end of 2025, in a gradual manner, we'd get back to this balance in prices of petroleum products. And the diesel, even after 2025, would be subsidized, but the products would make up for the difference. But these are the procedures the state should take to balance its needs. That's why I was reminding you that when we took the previous measures over the past 2 months, we were able again in the Egyptian market to restore confidence back, and we have just started. And we need to continue our economic reform program, and we still have a year before saying that we really overcame the crisis. This is what we are talking about today. I need just to give you one figure, because people ask about Zohr production. Egypt's consumption of petroleum products and natural gas to operate a country with 106 million population, our bill is $55 billion per year. This is our consumption bill of the last year. God gifted us with the fact that almost 33 billion of them come from the Egyptian lands and wells. This is the cost, 33 billion. But they are in pounds and not paid in dollars. But by the end of the day, if I had the surplus, what would I have done? I would have exported them. But now, 33 billion of the products are consumed locally. The remaining is 22 billion. The 22 billion are the bill of two things. The foreign partner who has with me the franchise rights and extracts from Zohr well, and I have to pay him, and also the other products imported. 22 billion. What did we do recently in order not to increase the prices? We had to postpone paying the dues for the foreign partners, and it is no secret. We had a crisis before the stability in the currency rate. Now we used to have a big problem with the arrears for the foreign partners. The problem was, when this happens, he reduces his investments in the country. So instead of having expectations for more production from natural gas and petroleum, he reduces his production. So our main purpose is to get back on track, and that's why I gave directives to the ministers of petroleum and finance to pay 20 to 25% of the arrears next week, and to reschedule the other arrears in agreement with the foreign partners to solve this crisis. But there remains that I have now this big subsidy. Next year, what it would be in the state budget in 2021-2022, the figure was 19 billion. Next year, it would be 155 billion pounds subsidy for petroleum products. Why? Because, as I said, we will develop a plan from now up till December 2025, trying to get back to the balance. But during this period, as a state, I need to subsidize. So I will have to put this figure as additional subsidy to overcome this crisis. I'm explaining all these figures and numbers so that all citizens would know exactly what we are doing and how the state is confronting the challenges and how we are trying to reduce the burdens as much as we can. But we need to know that there would be a very big increasing bill. It is not fixed, it would increase. And our main purpose should be to reach the balance, so that the subsidy for the important products would be there. The subsidy bill next year would be 636 billion pounds. This year was 530, so we increased 20%. So the subsidy is not less, it's even more. To wrap up, I would like to say that a lot of opinions say that the state needs to turn into a system for financial subsidy rather than in-kind subsidy, so that instead of subsidizing the bread and the supply and the commodities and some services, I would calculate what does the state incur as an average and give it to the citizen. Accordingly, the household, if it has 5 or 6 members, then we will multiply the figure of the member by 5 or 6, and they meet their priorities. We are listening to this opinion, and I talk to experts about that, but I think that on the medium term, this is the real solution for Egypt, that the subsidy system would go on, but it would be more governed with a specific figure. It won't be a fixed figure. It might increase every year according to the inflation rate, so it won't be fixed. It would increase. But to put its details and mechanisms, we need a community dialogue. So here I'm announcing today that we need to rethink of that and to put certain solutions and ideas, and we will use the national dialogue to decide upon this, because the national dialogue represents all segments of the community as well as the economic experts. And December 2024, they will provide me with an idea. Is this the best example for Egypt or not? If this is the best, then what is the implementation mechanism, so that if we agree on this, we can start gradually applying it from the fiscal year 2025-2026, because it will need a lot of implementation mechanisms. So Egypt needs to move in this direction steadily towards a real economic reform. Our main purpose of all these projects is growth, creating job opportunities, infrastructure, empowering the private sector to lead the state and increase its resources of hard currency production and reduce the import bill. And this is what we are working on. We are not just looking at the burdens shouldered by the state, but we are looking at the future. We are confident that by increasing our resources and our production, in 3 years we can reach this balance. So then the state once more be subject to these economic crises. Sorry for being lengthy, but I wanted to present to you the full vision with all numbers and figures, so that the citizen will recognize them, because we are all on the same boat and we all want the state to move forward with us all. Thank you.